Oh my god. Okay. Alright, Tired Dads. This is Lost Castle 2. As one myself, a review that feels like it only played the first hour doesn't tell me enough. And neither does one that assumes more hours automatically means more value. So, if you're in the same boat, stick with me. I play through these games under those same real life constraints so I can share what I found with you. No BS, praising what works and calling out what doesn't. So, let's jump into what Lost Castle 2 is all about. So, Lost Castle 2 is a 2D beat-em-up roguelite where you start your adventure as a simple treasure hunter. You dive toward the mysterious dark castle, only to stumble into something much deeper than the treasure hunt you originally signed up for. Think that old school Castle Crasher style beat-em-up feel, but with a more serious story-driven fantasy tone. You'll be smashing through hordes of monsters with a small arsenal of different weapons, basically acting as your class. Every run has you picking up randomized gear, stacking effects together, and seeing just how broken you can make your build. You can tackle this adventure solo, or bring other treasure hunters along with couch or online co-op. But with a game built around that dangerous, just one more run feeling, there's one question us tired dads have to ask. What happens when dad duty calls? By the way, double entendre absolutely intended. I'd like to start with whether this is even something you can comfortably have on with the kids around. Because dad duty gets a whole lot easier when you don't have to run from another room after realizing the kids have been quiet for way too long. Luckily, for me, this is fine. The violence is styled enough that it never really comes across as particularly graphic or gory, and while every parent's line is different, I'm comfortable enough with it that I actually play on easy with my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old just sits on my lap. So as you can gather, the couch co-op is a nice little addition if you want to play with your partner or kids. Everyone can design their own character, and my son had a blast assigning his. In case you gotta stop suddenly, you can pause whenever you need to in solo or couch co-op. Online obviously changes things since you can't freeze the entire lobby, but there's apparently an AFK feature that seems to work like an individual pause for yourself, but I didn't get a chance to properly test exactly how useful it is due to some multiplayer issues I'll get into later. And if you gotta completely shut down the game, you can suspend the run no matter how you're playing, solo, couch co-op, or online, which I really appreciate here. And naturally, that ends up mattering way more than it probably sounds, because some of these runs can be a commitment. But before we get into just how much time that can be, let's get into the actual gameplay. At its core, this is a combat-heavy roguelite built around mostly linear adventure with a couple branching paths. You'll be fighting all sorts of biome-specific enemies, taking on bosses, and trying to turn whatever the run gives you into a working build. Along the way, you'll also unlock different passive effects and aspects that can change how your weapon functions or push it towards a certain playstyle. And honestly, when you get a really good synergy going, it feels great. A run that starts with you struggling can suddenly flip into you completely dominating everything. Naturally though, the reverse can absolutely happen. A lot of that still comes down to RNG, but as you progress, you unlock a few more ways to influence what you're getting. So you're not completely at the mercy of, roguelike RNG. Whether you want to be a crit machine rogue, want to be a makeshift summoner, or want to basically kill everything around you with your aura, you can build toward all of that. You can control a surprising amount of a build despite the RNG chunk. In the end though, getting to that power fantasy will take a little work. So we need to know how well this game actually respects your time while you work towards it. And I'm honestly mixed on this one. Let's start with the easy positive. No microtransactions, period. So you avoid all the usual microtransaction sins like gutting content or slowing progression just to sell you the solution. A normal campaign can take you around 45 minutes to an hour depending on the run. The issue is what happens when you naturally push through the story. You eventually unlock Nightmare, which is tied directly into both difficulty and progression. As you push through it, the true ending route extends beyond the normal campaign into an additional stretch of harder fights and bosses, basically acting like a secondary or post-campaign section. And if you want to keep making meta progression, unlocking more, and eventually reach the true ending, you have to complete that section. The catch is, you have to clear the entire main campaign just to access it. Every single time. To top it off, each increase in Nightmare makes that whole process longer and harder, and you don't unlock the next Nightmare tier until you successfully clear the current one. And did I mention dying is part of the roguelike experience? Yeah. I think you can see where I'm going with this. If you're just farming, you can still choose to leave after the main campaign with your spoils. But Nightmare 5 is the only way to reach the true ending, and by that point, a full 2-part run was usually around 2 whole hours for me, give or take a half an hour, which is exactly why the suspense system is oh so appreciated here. Seeing the true ending took me around 20 total hours going solo, but obviously your mileage can vary pretty heavily, and I'm pretty sure I got really lucky with some of my RNG drops. And look, I actually enjoy games that keep ramping up the difficulty and have a little grind. But even for me, combining that increasing challenge with longer and longer runs in a roguelite formula makes the time commitment a harder pill to swallow. Going solo only makes that heavier and longer to tackle. Granted, you unlock bots with progression and the bots do pull their weight, but they don't get to build around the run like another player does. So I know what you're thinking. Split, why not just play multiplayer, right? At least from North America, nearby rooms could be rough to find, which often meant waiting around or accepting higher ping. And trying to host a room also meant a lot of waiting around since players cannot just drop in mid-run. Communication is limited to stickers, and public rooms also seem pretty heavily biased towards stronger or more meta weapons. They will kick you out if your favorite weapon happens to be low on the list. And if you do manage to find a group, I personally feel like that means I'm locked in for the full run as long as I can be. Thankfully, if real life pulls you away, you're not completely screwed. You can choose to suspend that run and it will put you in a solo instance at the same point, so you can continue on your own later. You just can't resume that run with the original group. But yeah, I think it's no surprise why I'm mixed here. It gives you some genuinely great tools for dealing with real life interruptions, but damn, does it ask for a lot of time per run, and that commitment only keeps ramping up. But how demanding is it when you're actually playing? Early on, it can be pretty chill, forgiving enough that even a 4-year-old can mess around with it and have fun. But if you want to keep pushing through the full progression path, the difficulty ramps up noticeably. Timing, positioning, and actually understanding your build start mattering a lot more. The nightmare system also gets more interesting than simply making enemies tankier or hit harder. On top of those increases, you choose different disadvantages and modifiers, and higher difficulties force you to take on more of them at once. So part of the challenge becomes deciding which problems you'd rather build and play around. At the upper end of Nightmare, expect a lighter mix of Souls-like punishment and the kind of grind you see in more traditional Asian progression games. Personally, I didn't find either side too bad, but I also grew up optimizing the hell out of those grind-heavy games, and I play a lot of Souls-likes, so I know that kind of progression definitely isn't everyone's cup of tea. And being willing to grind through something versus actually having a reason to keep coming back are two different beasts. Given this is a roguelite, there's technically a lot of replayability. But for me, the real finish line is Nightmare 5 and the true ending. After that, how much is left depends on what kind of player you are. If you stick to one weapon, already found the style you like, and got the pieces you wanted, there isn't much meaningful progression left beyond completionist goals. Once you've cleared that Nightmare 5 and finished the build you care most about, you're mostly coming back because you simply enjoy playing the game, maybe to experiment or work on more weapons, or just want to help a buddy out. Which really leaves one final question. Was the experience actually worth it? I won't lie, Lost Castle 2 had me pretty hyped at first. A beat 'em up that reminded me of Castle Crashers, but with roguelite progression and way more build experimentation layered on top, that was a hell yeah from me. And for most of the climb, I was having a blast. The combat is simple and fluid, the builds gave me plenty to mess with, and since I'm a glutton for challenging games, Nightmare getting harder and the story tied to that progression actually kept me engaged. The biggest hit to that experience was multiplayer. For all the reasons I mentioned earlier, playing online with randoms eventually killed most of my drive to keep doing it. Pre-made groups were easily better, and otherwise the bots can still pull their own weight. Then there's the commitment of those later runs themselves. When a full run push is that long, that alone can be a barrier to fitting one into a single session. And if life keeps you away for a few days after suspending, loading back up into a run can quickly turn into wait, what the hell was my build again? For me, the experience felt fun and complete while it lasted. I probably wouldn't actively return to it on my own, though I'd likely play more if I had a buddy to keep running it with me. But what does this mean for you? If grind, increasing difficulty, repeating runs, and enough roguelike complexity to put together some pretty solid builds while skill still matters sound like your kind of thing, there's a good bit to like here, especially if you already have friends to play with or plan to use couch co-op. At $17.99 USD, especially when it's usually part of a discounted bundle, I think I got more than enough out of it. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, I think Lost Castle 2 can be worth it and can be a decent fit for your limited gaming time if you've actually got enough of it, or don't mind suspending a run and coming back way later. Anyways, y'all, thanks for spending some of your time here with me. If you got something out of this, consider liking, commenting, and especially subscribing for more deep dives, build guides, and chill game discovery. And if there's a game you want me to jump into next, let me know below. Until then, it's a tough and busy world out there, so take care of yourselves, alright? I'll see y'all in the next one. For now, I'm Split, and I'm splitting.